Hey guys, welcome back to Super Important Reviews. My name's Steve, and today we'll be going over the Transformers 4 Age of Extinction Generations line Voyager class Slog. This is also the Transformer that you might know as Sludge, which was his original Generations 1 name. And also, this is a Transformer that I don't officially own. I'm borrowing this from my friend Travis, so thank you for letting me borrow the figure. Hopefully he's sweet. Can't wait to get this guy out of the packaging. But I am actually really glad they decided to give us this character for the movie line, because even though he wasn't actually a character in the film, I really do appreciate that they are harking back to the original Generations 1 line with these Transformers, even though they changed the name, but it's a good effort nonetheless. So I'm really glad that they're deciding to give this character to us, mainly because they already gave us some of the other G1 Transformers from the actual movie, and it just would have been really weird to have them without having the rest of the other Dinobots to complement them. Even though they didn't have any place from the film, it's just really cool to have these guys, and especially since there wasn't really that many official Transformers from that movie anyway, so you need something to kind of fill up the shelf space, so why not have the original Gen 1 guys? So I'm really excited to see how this guy is out of the packaging. So for the packaging, it's pretty much the standard fare that we got with all the other AOE Voyager class figures. If you guys have seen my Hound review or Optimus or Grimlock, it's pretty much the exact same packaging, except for it has a different concept image over here of Slog in his alt mode. On the side here, just tells you these Transformer Generations Voyager class Series 4 number 5, or Series 4 number 5. On the back of the packaging, just gives you a nice image of the character and also in his alt mode, which has a lot of spikes on it from what I can tell. So that'd be really neat, especially with the lances there. And also available on this line is the Voyager class Drift, which I'm hoping to find out in the wild. And if you guys want to read the bio real quick, I'll let you. Alright, we good? Alright. And on the side here, just has the Autobot comment. For the top, same thing, except a little bit of red there. And on the bottom, just legal mumbo jumbo. So that's enough about the packaging. It's going to open up out of its plastic prison. Alright, so first we're going to go over his accessory, which it comes with these pair of lances, which overall, I really like the shade of red on here. It's got a decent amount of detailing going on with it here. And overall, the shape of it's fairly nice, even though I've heard some references of this being of the more giggity variety, but we're going to stay a little bit above that. The guard here actually looks really nice too and has a nice amount of detail on it as well. What's kind of odd though is that the guard sits all the way up here, which you would think that would cover up the handle down here because the initial purpose of the guard is to protect your hand in combat and putting it into Slog's hand. It still actually looks really nice with him holding it, but it just kind of seems like it defeats the purpose of it just kind of sitting up here with it when it should really be doing something more along the lines of that. But also, as you can see here, that this part is articulated, and what this is for the peg holes back here, which what you can also do with it real quick is you kind of have it sitting underneath his hand, which looks really goofy, but it's an option nonetheless. But what you're supposed to do is you insert the handle here into the peg holes underneath, and then take the other lines, do the same thing with it on the other side. And what this does is it kind of gives them like over the shoulder cannons. Trying to adjust to show this just a sec. So after getting them situated, you guys can see what I'm talking about here with his over shoulder cannons, which overall it's kind of a neat look to it, especially if you don't want him to be holding any of the weapons. And it especially helps to add to his overall girth because, as you can see, he's a very large Transformer. And it helps with the overall imposingness factor, even though I still actually really like him actually holding the weapons. And then also it comes with are these little pairs of cannons, or at least that's what I'm going to call them, because I don't really see any other purpose of it being used as a weapon, because he doesn't really hold it well, because you can only hold it here. What they recommend you doing is inserting it into the shoulders here, putting the other one in on the other side. It actually looks really nice set up like that. Personally, I think it's also really cool. Another thing you could do with them too, getting off one of the lances, is that, yeah, now if I can get him to stand up, step it. Alright, stay right there, buddy. But It also has these peg holes here on the guard for the lance. So what you could do is actually insert that into the guard. Overall, just helps to make the weapon definitely a lot larger. It's not a bad touch, especially with it being a weapon or a cannon of sorts. So that's actually a really cool touch, and you can also have it sitting up a little bit higher too if you desire. Can't really bend it around too much because it affects with everything else, but it's really nice that they give you these options even though some of them aren't very viable for this guy. Alright, then bring him in for a little bit of a closer look. Overall, I really like his overall design because he has this exoskeleton kind of feel to it while also giving off the appearance of a knight. His helmet actually turned out pretty sweet. Even though it definitely reminds me more of like a kind of like a construction worker helmet. But it's got a lot of nice details, especially here with the eyes. I really love what I'm going to say is like this robin blue color. And it actually has like little slashes in there and whatnot to kind of make it reminiscent of teeth. So that's actually really sweet. I really like the silver for the mouth guard here. Overall, the body looks really nice too. It gives off this kind of rib cage appearance with some silver paint up here and then red on the insides of the bones here for the ribs. It looks really nice, especially over here too. Like it's this nice blood red on his shoulder pads. And I really like the way the spikes look on the top part of it. Like, it's just a very nice aesthetic for him. And then, as you can see here, his brontosaurus feet kind of cover his forearm here. And then just nothing really much going on here with the hand. But what's really sweet is that this actually is very reminiscent of Grimlock for me because it has the overall same appearance and actually kind of messes with the articulation, which we'll get to in a minute. And then going down to his belts here, which is my first problem that I have with this figure, is that this being the tail of the brontosaurus here, it doesn't actually lock into place because you can see there's literally no pegs or anything for this to stay in place. So it literally, you just fold it up and it's just supposed to sit there, but moving his legs, it starts shifting everything around. And it's not something that I'm a big fan of, and overall the paint on here is a little bit sloppier than it is on a lot of the rest of the figure because it's like they spray painted it and it just kind of faded off as you go down. So that's a little bit of a bummer for this guy. And for the rest of his body, overall his legs actually turned out really nice too, because I really like the texture on the legs here. The red's really nice on the kneecaps here. And again, overall going on with his overall gun appearance when you get on fully assembled with all the cannons, he even has more of it here on the side of his legs, which is actually a pretty neat touch. And then the same with the back of the legs too. Because I really like that it's actually enclosed back here and the spikes are coming out the back. It just really helps to accent a lot of the other what the armor is trying to do. The only real issue with this entire body, other than the belt not really securing into place, is the brontosaurus head literally just hangs off the back here. So that's kind of ugly, especially with the brontosaurus literally just staring at his butt the entire time. So I gotta imagine that the brontosaurus is a little depressed about that. And it's not really a good way of getting him to secure in there without just him just getting more up into his tush. So that's a little bit of a letdown, but I'm kind of used to it because you kind of see it with like the Grimlock had the same problem, and a lot of the Predakings from the Prime series also had the same problem. So it's not anything new, like it's something I've grown accustomed to, so it doesn't bother me so much, but I really wish they would figure out a little bit of a better way to deal with that. I'm actually really excited to see this guy with all the other Dinobots in my collection. But we'll get into his articulation real quick before we do that. For his head, it's on a ball joint, so go down, up, left, and right. It's got a really nice range of motion there. For his shoulders, you can go all the way around, up and down. Which is not a little bit of a bummer because it also has a swivel here that can move in and out. And his rotation here at the bicep. But his articulation for his arms aren't really that amazing because you got to bend here at the bicep. But especially when you have him holding the lances, the only real rotation for the entire arm is up here at the bicep. So when you have him, it has the same problem with Grimlock where he has a limited range of motion where, grab one of the lances just to show you, where you can only really have it holding it more in a straight up and down pose, unless you rotate the bicep, and then that's pretty much where you get the playability with it. So it just would have been nice to see maybe another swivel joint somewhere in here just to give it a little bit more play. Then he also has a rotation at the waist, goes all the way around. At his legs, the tails get in a little bit of the way, but it's not very hindering for the most part. And his leg can go in and out, forward, good range of motion, back, has a bend at the knee, also has a rotation here at the thigh. And then for his feet, has a nice bend to it. And then one thing to point out is that for his night boots, or what I like to call the elf boots, the point here is really subtle. So it's actually very contrasting compared with some of the other Dinobots where they literally look like elf boots from like Santa Claus's workshop and whatnot. Well, his is fairly normal to what I would expect him to look like. So that's actually kind of nice for this guy. And overall in robot form, I think he turned out really nice. It's definitely not as great as I would have really liked it to have been, because it would just been nice to see a little bit more secureness with the belt here and with the dinosaur head in the back, and a little bit more articulation with the arms. But let's get him in the Brachiosaurus form and see how that turned out. So before I transform, after reading the instructions, it actually recommends having the Brachiosaurus head at the top, which to me doesn't look really that great, and actually I kind of preferred him sniffing the butt a little more, so take it as you will. You can have it up top if you want, if that's something that really bothers you, but stop it, belt. But personally, I actually really recommend having the head down. And for some quick comparisons, here's Slog compared next to Slash and Strafe. And here he is compared next to Grimlock, Scorn, and Slug. And here he is compared next to Hound and Bumblebee, and I finally have my own Hound. And here he is compared next to his G1 counterpart, who also has the butt problem. And here's Slug in dinosaur form, which, for a positive note, he looks really sweet. Because overall, if you just have him standing on a shelf, he has a lot of really nice details to him. Because a lot of the spikes kind of cross over from the robot form into the dinosaur form, which overall looks really cool. And the paint job is actually really nice, especially with the shiny blood red paint here. And the overall, the lances, I should say, that transform into lasers for him in brontosaurus form actually look really cool, and overall it just makes this a more large and imposing figure. My only, or sorry, I can't really say it's my only problem. My major problem with this figure though is that as long as you don't play with him or want to move him, he looks okay. Because once you start messing with stuff, because a lot of this is soft rubber, which I'll get some of the weapons out of the way here. Okay, so after getting the weapons out of the way, right here, it's all soft rubber here, and for his rib cage here, as you can see, it flexes very easily. Now, he doesn't have a whole lot of things that actually lock into place, because if you want to start moving the legs here, it easily pops right out. So there's no way to really firmly secure this in that I noticed, because the instructions do a very poor job at illustrating how to properly get this guy done. Because it only shows you how to do it from robot form to dinosaur form, which isn't really so bad because you should be able to work your way back to forward, but it still it doesn't work very well for me. Like, I had to sit here and try to figure this guy out for a few minutes. And I was really bummed out that it just sits there. Not the best thing. There's the flap here and whatnot. So if you want to start playing with it or moving it around, it just takes a lot of finessing to get it back into how you want it. And then for here too, at the midsection, it literally has no way of really hooking into the body. So that's pretty much what you get there for that. So if you want to have him like rearing up, I guess you can do that, which looks very silly. And it just would have been really nice to see some way of hooking the body together, so you would actually have to play with the legs to get it to move instead of the body parts starting to show underneath and whatnot. And it's just, I'm really not a fan of that. Now granted, again, it looks really nice standing there on the shelf. It's a very nice looking transformer. But in terms of overall play value, like, I would be really disappointed with this figure at the most part. And then getting into the detailing, for his head sculpt, it actually looks really nice, even though it doesn't have the overall optic look with the eyes like you see with a lot of the other Transformers. So it gives it some individuality between them, but I do really like it when they have that look because it just gives it a lot more robotic feel to it. But the head sculpt actually is really nice on here, and it's actually got some teeth in there, which is really cool. As you guys see, it's also articulated, which is nice. Take a look up, look down. Same with the neck here. You can bend down, go up. Has a nice rotation here. And what's actually really nice about this form too is it has a lot of posability. Like for the legs here, then go all the way around. Got a nice bend to it. Same with the leg here. At the waist, you can go up and down, all the way around, which really shouldn't happen with this. Like, I really, again, this is probably the most disappointing part about this figure for me. And then for the back legs here, your legs can pretty much move back and forth because they more or less stay in fixed because of the way the body clicks into here and then with the tail. But also under here too, because I know I'm jumping around a lot, but it would have been nice to see some way of hooking the legs in together, like having some pegs here to connect the bottom portion. Because the only pegs on him for when you're transforming him are back here for the tail, and then up here for all the soft plastic bits, except for this part's actually hard plastic here where it hooks into. So it randomly shifts on the bottom too when you start messing around with it. So it's not a very playable transformer, but it's actually still a very nice looking transformer. So if you're a big collector of this guy, or just like Dinobots or Transformers in general, you're not really into messing around with the figures or looking to play with it as much, this form actually does work very well for me. But in terms of play value, it's just a little lackluster in that regard. So for some quick comparisons, here's Slog compared next to Slash and Strafe. And here he is compared next to Grimlock, Slug, and Scorn. And here's a side-by-side comparison with Hound and Bumblebee. And here he is with his G1 counterpart. So Slog, I'm very torn between this figure, because overall its amount of detail and the paint application on here is actually very nice for the figure in both robot form and the Brachiosaurus form. But it could have used a lot more peg sections to keep it in transformed state, because with the soft plastic for the front here and for the rib cage and whatnot, it just doesn't stay very well transformed, especially in the Brachiosaurus form. In the robot form, it's not so bad. It's mainly just the belt section could use something. But it's very distracting when it's in the dinosaur form, because especially if you want to play with it and whatnot, it just doesn't really work out that well. But if you're someone like me that mainly buys these Transformers just to display them on their shelves and just pulls them once in a while just to work with all your other figures, I still think this guy's a solid buy, and if I see him out in the wild, I'm still going to pick one up for myself. Especially since Jessica would be really mad at me if I didn't decide to grab one. So I still actually really recommend this figure, especially if you're really in the Dinobots or the new movie. I think he's still a fairly solid buy. He's not the best of the Dinobots that I've seen, but he's definitely not the worst figure ever. He's definitely better than Lockdown. So what do you guys think? Do you guys like Slog? What's your favorite G1 Dinobot? Or are you guys not a big fan of herbivores? Please let us know in the comments. If you want to see closer pictures of them on Facebook, if you want to click the link in the description below. Please don't be afraid to share this video around, and if you like this and want to see more stuff like this, please give us a like and subscribe. Thank you guys for watching.